Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mrs. Blaswell?
Here.
Mrs. Holdren? Here. Mrs. Hoskins? Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Mather?
Here.
Mrs. Schott?
Here.
Joe Vento?
Here.
And Ann Etchells.
Thank you. And if you could call the calendar.
December 16th, 2019, there will be a joint budget meeting with the Town Council. December 23rd through the 31st is the holiday recess and schools are closed. December 24th and 25th, it's a holiday and the offices are closed. January 1st, 2020 is a holiday, offices are closed. And then Tuesday, January 14th, 2020 is a school committee meeting.
Thank you. So first on our agenda for presentations and recognitions, we have...
But if we do a few recognitions.
You want to do
before
yours
we get
first?
started.
Okay.
Okay. Serious?
Sure. So there's a couple things that come our way that we want to make sure that we recognize. Kristen Beelan, she's a 4th grade teacher at Quinnesset. She was recently published in the Transforming Education blog, and her blog was called Building Stronger Relationships with Students Requires Relational Trust. So she has been nominated a couple of times to have things, and she's been blogging and writing for a while. We thought we'd make sure we bring one in, and I have the link here so I can make sure the school committee gets it so you can take a look at it.
Thank you.
The National Honor Society, last month we had 58 students that were eligible to apply. 40 students applied, and they were all inducted into the National Honor Society. This is 11th and 12th grade students, and it's based on the first 2 years of their scores. And congratulations, one of our own sitting at this table was inducted. Lynx, a $1,000 grant. So Tracy Wilkinson, she works for the Lynx, and she sent us a notice. I'm delighted to announce that with thanks to one of our mentors, Jeff Land, who is a father of 3 of our students at the high school. He works for IBM. They were awarded a $1,000 grant for Global IBM Volunteers Program for the use on STEM-based learning. The application was submitted on behalf of middle schools' Science Olympiad programs and will be split 50-50 between the 2 schools. Below is an extract for the email we received yesterday, and it's basically telling us that IBM is pleased to inform us about the cash grant. So that's always a welcome thing, and thank you to Mr. Land for putting North Kingstown School Department for that. At the high school, the 2nd consecutive Scott Wright Memorial Award. This is a teacher recognition and also administration, but congratulations to Julie McGuire and Donna Sweet, who were honored at this month's faculty meeting for their work with the Rhode Island Blood Center. Typically, these awards are presented at the High School Heroes program. In October, both advisors had a conflict. Our Blood Center coordinator and skipper parent, Heather Robbenheimer, made a special presentation, and North Kingstown High School once again topped all of the high schools by collecting the most pints of blood in 2018-19 from any other school. That's happened a lot. And then finally, I have Ben DeSorsi, a senior in Mr. Thomas's communication class. He received a letter from FEND, which is called Full Energy No Drugs, letting him know that his PSA won first place. And I'd like to recognize Donna Sweet for bringing this opportunity to the high school. But the students in Mr. Thomas's class made it, and he just found out literally yesterday that he got it. So that's very exciting, so congratulations. A lot of good things going on.
I also have a couple of items. We save the athletic accolades until the end of the season, so we just finished the fall season, and it's been a tremendous one. So a few items to go over here. State championships in both unified volleyball and girls volleyball. Girls volleyball has won 59 straight matches and their 3rd straight state championship. Division I Super Bowl champions for football, state runners-up for field hockey, division championships in boys soccer, boys cross country, girls volleyball, JV state championships for girls soccer and girls volleyball. James Osmansky, Rhode Island football Gatorade Player of the Year. I think that's our 2nd in a row. Haley Sawyer is a finalist for the Rhode Island Girls Volleyball Player of the Year. That will be announced next month. Caleb Wagner is a finalist for the Boys Soccer Player of the Year. Boys and Girls Cross Country were named the Showcase Cinema Team of the Week. James Osmansky and Haley Sawyer were named the Eyewitness News Cardi's Hometown Hero. I just saw that on TV, I think it was just last night for James. Joe Gilmartin, after several very successful seasons and 3 championships, has resigned as the head football coach. I wish him well. And Paul Fanning was named the Boys Soccer Coach Division I Coach of the Year. So Dick Fossa is running quite a program there in the athletic department. But this just came to us yesterday, so I'm really happy about the timing on this. We have just heard from the College Board that they're pleased to share the exciting news that North Kingstown High School has earned a position on the 10th Annual AP District Honor Roll. That's 250 high schools nationwide. Only 4 in Rhode Island were named. The annual AP District Honor Roll recognizes districts for increasing access to advanced placement coursework while maintaining or increasing the percentage of students earning a 3 or higher on the AP exams. Honor Roll districts defy the expectations that expanding access automatically results in a decline in the percentage of exams earning a 3 or better. Reaching these goals indicates that your district is successfully identifying motivated, academically prepared students who are likely to benefit from rigorous AP coursework. And this is not the first time North Kingstown has gotten this award. So we have a little star next to our name on that list. So it's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, I have one more thing. I'm sorry, I can't even believe I almost forgot this. So the music department, we received the results of the All-State Music Audition. 72 students auditioned, 49 were accepted. That's 68%. I want to make sure that everybody knows North Kingstown High School had 49 musicians accepted into the 2020 All-State Music Ensembles. From that 49, 10 were ranked number 2 in the state, 7 were ranked as a number 1 musician in their category, and of course I have their names. Those are Lizzie Barreline, Peyton Barlow, Cameron Boyd, Eric Fornaro, Caroline Ranucci, Carolina Roy, and Danny Ventura. Congratulations to all involved.
A lot of great things happening. And speaking of great things happening, Mr. Michael Waterman is here tonight to talk about our annual review of North Kingstown School Department IT program. Lot going on there, as you'll see from his presentation. And we asked him to come yearly to kind of give us an update on our strategic IT plan.
Boy, it's gonna be very difficult to follow all that great news, but I will do my best here. So tonight I'm gonna take you on a little tour of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. So I'm gonna jump right into it with where we've been. So this was all work that we've done during the 2018-19 school year, and what this doesn't cover is this doesn't cover our day-to-day operations. So this doesn't cover us supporting the 600 plus staff members and the approximately 5,000 Chromebooks we have in the district. These are just more of the bigger items that we've been able to accomplish. So starting last summer, we replaced 75 office area computers. So these are the computers that are used by the clerks, by the administration clerks, the guidance counselors, anybody who pretty much works in a office area was provided with a new computer last year. As part of these next 2 bullets were 2 separate items that we did as part of one upgrade. As you recall, last year I came to you asking for approval to upgrade all of our wireless access points. As part of that, we consolidated the switches as well, which saved us money as far as licensing goes. So for every access point and for every switch, we have to purchase a license. We were able to, because we've beefed up the Wi-Fi throughout the district, we were able to remove switches that are no longer used because we no longer have the computer labs where each computer lab would occupy pretty much one switch. So we consolidated the switches. We were able to just redistribute the switches across the district as well as use them as part of our security upgrades, which I'll speak to later. Last year we upgraded classroom computers. Those are the ones that the teachers use at Fishing Cove, Hamilton, Davisville Middle School, and Davisville Academy. Over the winter break, the guts of the internal phone system at the high school was upgraded and replaced. So that was taking the original large cabinet out of one of the office areas at the high school and updating it to a newer streamlined version. What happened was the company that originally had that equipment we traced it, they'd been bought out 3 or 4 times. So we did have a part go on it at one point that we had to purchase on eBay. So it was no longer reliable, and it's a part of the emergency communication, so we wanted to make sure it was reliable. So that was something we were able to accomplish relatively seamlessly during the winter break. All of our copy machines were updated, and we added the print release capabilities, as well as building that into the swipe cards. Over the course of last year, we replaced and upgraded 21 interactive boards across all schools. So this is one of the things in our 5-year strategic plan. We'd hoped to, going back a few years, we'd hoped to replace 20% each year. We've never hit that goal of replacing 20% of the boards. At this point, we're reactive to boards versus proactive. So when one breaks, when one has, we call it digital dandruff, it'll look like a constellation. There'll be all little pixelated dots all over it. So we're replacing them as needed versus what I'd love to do in a perfect world is identify this 20% needs to go this year and on an ongoing cycle. We began to accept online payments, and we did that last year with Chromebook fees and Chromebook insurance. We transitioned from a network drive to a Google Drive, so that saves us on storage. But also, it used to be, in order to get a file on our server, you had to be on our network. Now you can be anywhere in the world. Our security upgrades, 500 cameras, staff and visitor lanyards. We added card access to 60 doors and revamped our security protocols. The next one, replaced core switch stack at the data center, was more out of necessity. We had a lightning strike that happened just outside the D Center and fried them. We added a computer lab to North Kingstown High School. We replaced the keyboarding labs at both middle schools. We upgraded the robotics and engineering computer lab at the high school. As part of the work to I call it the robotics and engineering suite, they've got that series of classrooms. We added 4 interactive and 1 non-interactive projector to that area. We took many of our registration functions as far as initial collection of data, booking your appointment with Sherry Briggs, our registrar. We brought all that online, and we automated tardy sign-ins at the high school, both middle schools, and I know at least 1 elementary school. So at the high school, it gets to the point where if the kids have their IDs with the barcode on it, they can scan in, and it will automatically mark them tardy and print out a late slip for them. So that's where we were last year, so here's where we are this year. We upgraded the communications lab. That's Mr. Thomas's lab at North Kingstown High School. We updated 20 preschool iPads. We are tonight unveiling the new school department app. We've rolled out the See Something, Say Something anonymous reporting tool. We had new air conditioning units installed in the data center, and that's just one room. So that's not the D building, that's just the data center room where all of our servers and switches live. We added the streaming monitor and menu to the North Kingstown High School concession stand. And I'm seeing I've either put something in the wrong spot or I skipped over it on the last one. We built so last year we built a Wi-Fi bridge between North Kingstown High School and the stadium. So up until last year there was no internet service out at the stadium. Jason McGuire, our network manager, he's phenomenal with this kind of work. He was up on the roof of the high school, put an antenna. We added an antenna to the ticket booth, to the bathroom area where we put a switch, and also to the press box area. So that was how last year they were able to start streaming athletic events from the stadium. This year we extended that we added 2 55-inch screens to the concession stand, one of which has the menu and the other which can stream either a live game that's happening in the stadium, or if, let's say, on a Friday night the soccer team was playing in the stadium, they could be streaming the football game from wherever they're playing, assuming that away school has the streaming capabilities as well. Where were we? Battery backups this summer were rebuilt and redistributed to all network closets. The data center battery backup was refreshed. That was, again, as a result of that lightning strike. We're investigating. I know last meeting or a couple meetings ago, the architect and engineering fees for a generator at the D building was approved, so I know we're working towards that. We were investigating an LMS, and I was running out of the room, so I abbreviated a learning management system. Last year, we transitioned the individual users' network drives to Google. This year, we're going to be working towards taking the shared network drives and moving those towards Google for the same reason. This summer, all classroom computers at the high school, Stony Lane and Quid, were upgraded. We're in the process currently of adding 25 more security cameras, so we were able to identify spots where we intended to have coverage, but the angle wasn't there, or it just was overlooked in the original walkthrough, so we're going back and filling those holes. The big project that we're doing from a security standpoint is the door monitoring system, and that is wrapping up, and we expect to be online within the next week and a half. And that is essentially every exterior door has a door contact on it, and in the office areas will be a map, and there'll be an LED light at each door. And so we'll be working with the principals to determining each door's value. So if a door should never be left open for more than 10 seconds, let's say, if the door is open for more than 10 seconds, the green LED will turn red. There'll be an audible sound so people can draw attention to it, and they'll be able to either go shut the door or say, yep, it's a delivery coming in, that door will be shut. So that's a project that we're wrapping up now. Currently, we've replaced 6 interactive boards. Very, very much in the thick of it. It's what I spent a good chunk of my day today was working on the online facility scheduler, and that will allow people from the community to see when we have different, when is High School Gym 1 available so that they can rent it or book it. So I'm in the thick of that right now. We began accepting more payments online. This fall, we did the high school homecoming, so we did the homecoming dance tickets, and we also did the t-shirt sales, as well as we've been accepting preschool payments. I have a conference call set up for Friday with Stephanie Russo, our assistant controller, and Mr. Thomas, who runs the sports camps, looking at moving to the same registration and online payment system that we use for the preschool fees and Chromebook fees. We have added, and we're adding additional features. So right now, there's only one way off the network, and that runs through the D building. When we had the power outage, there are 2 ways off the network, but many of our core services live at the D building. Right now, we're moving some of those core services and having a redundant backup up to DA. So, for example, when the D building was without power, that took out many of the printers across the district, and we were without power for 2 days. So what we're building over the winter break is if the D building's without power or the server crashes, printing will automatically be rerouted through Davisville Academy. So building in redundancy. I know Dr. Manseri is working with with all the principals on consolidating what software is used at the schools. We continue to investigate additional security measures. And over the Christmas break, we'll be separating North Kingstown High School from the D building. So what happens now is if there was a network issue at the high school, it impacts the D building, which then in turn impacts the rest of the district. So what we're doing is we're going to be we're going to be virtually separating the high school onto their own network and the D building onto their own. So if there was ever an issue at the high school, the D building doesn't go down, and it keeps the rest of the district from also going down. So where we are going, and you'll notice the first 2 slides were full. This slide isn't as full because we always seem to be adding. So I'm sure next year when I'm here doing this presentation and we're looking back at what we did this year, we'll continue to fill the slide. So for the next year, and I do not have details on this, I will be coming to you in the coming months with some details on this, but I don't have them now. We'll be looking at a Chromebook refresh for staff and students. We'll be discussing kindergarten iPads. I'll be asking you for the principals and other administrators for a laptop refresh or computer refresh. I'll be coming to you to tell you that the CTE carts, the 100 laptops that the CTE program has, are now 5 years old. I'll be asking you to look at North Kingstown High School room 218. That's Mr. Garland's lab. His lab is going on 5 and 6 years old. I'll be looking to you to talk about the data center servers and storage, which are going on anywhere from, we had looked at possible replacement in FY18 to, but they were in good enough condition to keep us going, but we're really starting to feel them now, as well as a consolidation. We'll be talking about additional security improvements, cybersecurity training and awareness, professional development on a learning management system, proactive replacement of interactive technologies. I mentioned off the get-go that right now we're reactive. Upgrading rooms without interactive technologies to interactive technologies. So currently, I'm in a spot where I support what's in place. So if a teacher has a projector on a cart and that projector dies, they get another projector to go on the cart. If they have an interactive board in their classroom and their interactive board dies, I replace it with an interactive device. I'd like to move as many people, because people do want the interactive devices. I'd like to move there. We're just not in a position where we're able to offer that. And continue to look at consolidating printing and printers. I know a couple questions have come up, so I'm going to address them now. As far as the question came up about our student help tech team. In 2018, we had a tech team that was a class at the high school. That class didn't run in 2000. Amy, help me out here. Am I saying the wrong years?
It was there 16, 17.
I'm sorry, 16, 17 it was there. 18, 19 it didn't run. No, 16, 17, sorry. Take that back. 16, 17 it ran. 17, 18 it did not run. 18, 19 it ran. And then this year it was not able to run because of the increase in the number of kids that FTE had to be moved. Actually, Dr. Mansour, you could probably speak better to where it went because I don't know where it went, but I know that 0.2 FTE did get shifted to fill another need. So while the class is not running, we do continue to have kids helping out. Over the summer, we had 4 North Kingstown High School students work with us throughout the summer on doing all the work that we did and getting the schools ready. Tonight on your agenda for approval is a little stopgap measure for a little more assistance for one of those kids who worked with us over the summer returning from college. And we currently have 2 kids who are working with us multiple times per week. So while we don't have the class running, we do have students working with us. Another question that came up was about the digital citizenship. And I know as part of the library media specialist curriculum refresh, they are doing instruction around Common Sense Media as far as digital citizenship, and even some of the platforms we have. Turnitin is a form of digital citizenship because it's talking about copyright infringement. So digital citizenship instruction is something that's just becoming part of everyday culture. Questions? So yes.
Dr. O'Day, I think you would jump in for a second.
Not to break your
Momentum.
momentum here, but I just want to comment how comprehensive all this is, and how, 10 years ago, technology was something, it was almost like an afterthought for school departments, something that you realize you want to, bolster up a computer lab, and not a heck of a lot more than that. Now it touches, consider, the Chromebook edition, all the security editions, and everything else that's going on with the servers, even our own broadband. And I think people really need to start seeing this as a major capital item, part of our infrastructure. This is as big as, the buildings themselves, in my opinion, about how essential they are to just about everything that we do. And so there's quite a bit going on here.
And I do want to take this opportunity. I have a great team that I work with. Andrew Mello, our systems administrator, Jason McGuire, our network manager, Kim Ramos, who, another question I just checked while you were talking was about the blended learning, ran another spectacular summit as our tech lead teacher. Sherry Lynn Briggs, our data manager. I have 3 technicians, Mike Berghardt, who just started with us this summer and has picked up and is running, and then Victor Person and Charles Pizzenko. They all do a great job. They're the ones who deserve all the credit. They're the ones who's executing this work. I'm just keeping stuff out of their way so that they can do this good work. So that was the review, but I'm going to kind of steal the spotlight while I have it to talk to you about the app. So before I pivot, are there questions related to the annual review?
Questions on tech?
I just had a question with the student help desk.
Sure.
Why we have to tie it, why we can't advance to the point where it's independent of a course being run? Like students have PLT, couldn't students use that? Don't we have sufficient expertise now to develop a cadre of students who could be managed?
I think it comes down to supervision. I am certainly willing. It comes down to a balance of executing our day-to-day operations, but also providing appropriate supervision. There are times when we're all out at schools and we have to say, okay, somebody needs to stay in the building with the kids in the D building. Somebody needs to be here because they can't be alone. So it's not about the student skill set, it's more about the logistics of it. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. It's not that we don't want it, it's just the logistical. What was so beneficial is when we had the student last year, Miss Shields, Mallory Shields from the high school, she was teaching the kids the course, and it's slipping my mind now, of course, because I'm on the spot.
And just to point out, it's considered a course that's taught, so you're paying the teacher for that time.
Yes.
And that's part of what runs into the logistical issue of if some other elective is running,
Right,
then we
no,
need more than that.
I get that. I
Yeah.
guess maybe I'm thinking, like schools like Burlington, Mass, where it's become sufficient capacity where, students, and granted, they can't be all over, so
Mhm.
just at the high school, per se, but almost get to the point where you don't need a lot of supervision, right? Because they're doing some of the sort of triage and other
Mhm.
stuff that students are good at.
So I believe that's a program I visited was Burlington. They always had so what was different about their setup than our setup was they always had a home base to go back to. So they were always working off of that teacher, or so there was a teacher assigned to it, but there was also the tech department in the school at the time. So there was always somewhere for them to go back to. I guess what worries me now is if they were working on the D building and there was a fire drill at the high school today. So where would those kids go when they're evacuating? What if there was ever what is the accountability? Who's supervising them? Because we are separated. That's
There's no
just.
other administrator in the building, at D building. See, we're a little unique with that D building. So I think that, that's part of it. There isn't, if you leave them there isn't, you've got one transportation person, you have a facilities person who's in and out all the time, and that's it.
And what we did last year really worked, I feel. Ms. Shields was teaching them the curriculum that still hasn't come to me yet. What was it?
Is it the robotic? No, what are you talking about?
No, when she was running the student tech program, she so half of the kids, there were about 18 kids in the class. 9 kids would come down to us in the D building and do the hands-on part, and then it was the they weren't getting the certification, but they were taking the classes, leading them towards the certification. A+. Thank you. So she was teaching them the A+ curriculum, and then half of them would come down to us. So in our building they were supervised, at the school they were supervised. Right now we're missing that connection, and it's not because we don't want it. We could use the help. We really could, especially with Chromebooks, 5,000 Chromebooks that are 4 and 5 years old now. They're showing their age.
Thank you.
Okay, so for this next part.
No, okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, just
More
I wanna
questions?
Make sure.
My apologies. So, I guess I did have a slide for that. So North Kingston School Department now has an app. Aptigee is the company who brings us this app. The app is available on both iOS, Apple, and Android platforms, which is the Google platform. There's one app, and both the district and all the schools live on that one app. So it's not like you have to download a Wickford Middle School app or a Forest Park app. One app. The app contains the following sections: the live feed, the news section, which is linked from Edleo. So when an item gets posted on the news section, whether it's for the district or for the school, in Edleo, there's about a 24-hour ingestion period. Within that 24 hours, Aptigee will take that in and it will be posted on the app as well. There's an events section, events calendar, which is the same events calendar that's on the web page or and the app. There's a staff directory, documents, a dining menu, only for the schools, and notifications. And one of the things that's just changed today, Mr. Thomas is working with Trish Cawley doing our dining services, is just within the past hour, they've posted both the gluten-free menu as its own menu and also the breakfast menu, because those menus don't change. Every Monday, whatever Monday's breakfast is this Monday, it's the same next Monday. So those are now up there as their own links. And then the lunch menus, which do rotate, and I'm going to show you this, are also available on the app. So when I get to it, the left menu allows the user to jump through different sections that I just mentioned, and the right menu allows you to jump through the schools. The settings allows the user to select the default school, turn on notifications, and select which schools they'd like to receive the notifications from. So let's move on to the demo. I apologize for having my back turned to you all. So this is what the app looks like, again, available from the iOS store and the Android. I can try and zoom in a little bit. Sometimes it takes it out of focus. Can you all see that? Okay. So I'm going to open up the app, and I'm going to just zoom it out a little bit. And this is your landing page. So as mentioned, you have the left menu and the right menu. So the left menu opens up the live feed section, which the way we're going to use live feed from the district level is anything that's posted to Facebook and Twitter is also going to be posted to the live feed. You'll have the news section, which is linked from the web page, the events, which is linked from the same calendar that's on the web page, the staff directory, documents, and at the district level, the documents are just district documents. The notifications, and then the settings. So the notifications, so for those of you that don't know what a notification is, so if you have a device, an iPad, that only works on Wi-Fi, doesn't have a cellular signal, a notification is going to act as a text message to that Wi-Fi only device. So as you can see, this was from last week. And then I'm going to come over here to the right menu, and you can see you have North Kingstown School Department, Davisville Academy, Wickford Middle School, Davisville Middle School, Fishing Cove, Forest Park. So all of our schools show up on the right side. So I'll click on Wickford Middle School so we can really explore the app. And then we'll go to the live feed. So here you can see Mr. Lally's different Facebook posts. And I promise you on the app, it looks clear. It's tough to see it right now, but it does look clear. And you can see the different things he's posted. You can come to the news, which is linked from his webpage, so the WMS fundraiser. Okay. The events. So tonight they have a concert at the high school. Next, then it looks like the next event is March 17th. So I'm going to look at that calendar and make sure everything's in there, because usually they're right on with that. The staff directory. As I mentioned, the breakfast menu. Okay, so the lunch menu is not pulling up on this device, but I've looked at it on another device, and I think this is a my device setting. So I promise you the lunch menu pulls up. It pulls up a little bit differently than the standalone gluten-free menu will pull up. The way the lunch menu is going to pull up, I probably should have restarted my device, is it's a daily menu. So you would click on today's date. Has anybody pulled up the app? Nobody's jumping on it?
Yeah.
Not coming up.
So are you able to see the lunch menu?
Not the lunch menu.
Not the lunch menu, huh?
'Cause I said-
So the lunch menu was just working, I promise, and it will be working. It's working. I hear it's working. It's a great Montevallo document camera right here. So the lunch menu, as you can see, the lunch menu gets listed daily. And then you can click on the day. You can see the specials for the day. Thank you.
It works, I just saw.
Works on the superintendent's phone. That's all that really matters right there.
So this was something that Mr. Thomas was working with Apogee on doing these menus, and an hour ago the gluten-free and breakfast menu did not exist, so they may still be adding this in. Then when you come to documents, and I want to remind you, we're at Wickford Middle School, so under documents, you're going to see both the district documents and then documents that are specific to Wickford Middle School. So their EEE notification, their school improvement plan, and the handbook. And then notifications. So Wickford Middle School has not sent out any notifications yet. The principals at our last administrative meeting were all trained on this, so we do expect to start seeing more and more getting pushed through here. I also think it's important to note that this isn't replacing anything that we already do. This is just another form. This is a new form of communication. Nothing is going away. Wherever you used to get your news from, you'll still be able to get it from. So let me talk about the settings section. So under the settings section, you can select who you want your default school to be. So if you don't care what's happening at the district level, you just want to know what's happening at Forest Park, you can select from the drop-down Forest Park. And then when you open up the app, it's going to take you right to Forest Park. Next section allows you to turn on notifications. So that's, again, notifications. Those are the Wi-Fi only devices. That's the way you can get a text message. And then you can select right below who you want to receive notifications from. So if you have kids that attend multiple schools on this one app, you can get notifications from the different schools. Questions on the app?
Talk about social media and the ThrillShare piece.
So ThrillShare is the platform that Aptigee runs, and so whenever I send out the no school notification, I am able to. I'll give you a quick demo.
Don't cancel school tomorrow.
So I was going to make the joke. Dr. Auger, do you want to make any breaking announcements right now? About an hour delay. We can do it while everyone's
The early word on any school cancellation.
while everyone's looking.
Hitting the wrong button.
So this is the phone, and there's two. This is the phone you want to do that. So you come over here to notifications, select the school department. I'm going to add a notification, and here I can post to Facebook, Twitter, the live feed. I can push that push notification out to anybody who's subscribed to NKSD. I can send the text message out. Here's where I can select all NKSD students. I'm going to hit the check mark, and then here's where I would type the message. And that's as far as I'm going to go, guys. So, but stay tuned tomorrow morning. So that's how we're able to get all of our different pieces of communication out very quickly. I did leave off, you can't really see it, the last button I didn't check is the voice call, because I can't do both the voice call and the text message at the same time. I want everybody to hear my cherry voice at 5 o'clock in the morning.
And you don't have the password on that phone set to 000.
Did you notice I pulled it away?
Yeah.
2-factor authentication is required. So,
And there's a feature that can be used by any principal that if they have particular, say, a video or a social media post of any kind that's sent to them, they can immediately just get it out on that same ThrillShare. So one stop, it's on all the social media platforms, and it's just that much easier to make the communication happen.
So what Dr. Auger is describing is kind of our next step. So step one is rolling this out. Step two is using it to its fullest potential. So we can give non-administrators authorization to create a post. That post would then go to the administrator of that building or to Dr. Auger for approval. He can say, yes, I like this. So it's possible somebody could be sitting at in the stands of the volleyball game. Dr. Auger's at the football game. They can take a video of a great play, and Dr. Auger would get the notification that so-and-so has sent him a video. He can review the video, make sure it's to his liking, and then he can post it without ever being there as a representative of the district. So the schools will have that same ability. That's in the advanced section where we're still in the rollout phase.
Are you ready to share this with families?
So this is the public unveiling. We do have marketing materials.
Start tonight.
Yep,
Okay.
we do have marketing materials that we'll be sharing as well. I've also talked to Chaz, is his nickname, Charles, in my office, who will be cutting out this section of the video, and we'll be sharing just that little demonstration that I just did with folks, as long as it came out okay.
And will you guys know how many people actually download the app? Like, do you get that a report somehow?
We get analytics. I haven't seen that bit of data. I can certainly reach out to Aptigee. I think if you download it on the Google Play Store and on the iTunes Store, you can give a rating, 5-star please. You can give a rating, and that would also kind of act as a counter, because I know on the Apple Store it does show how many downloads. I don't know if it's going to show it for this type of app.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just curious, like, how many parents are gonna download this thing, right? So you can see, is it an effective way to communicate with them?
The
versus
staff directory is very, very, very accessible, and I'll be curious to see if more teachers are contacted more frequently, because it is so simple.
Mm.
Like where you use, on the website, you're kind of going
Yes.
through, and this, it's like text or call, call, email, go up.
And the website
that?
is never all that great for a phone,
No.
as a mobile feature. You can
Exactly,
do
so
it,
it's gonna
but
be
it
interesting to see
is
if
harder
suddenly
to
people are,
navigate.
like
Yeah.
before, like,
So
too much
that's why we
trouble, and now
wanted
they're
this
gonna be like,
piece.
I'm calling.
One-stop shopping, here you go.
Well, heck of a presentation.
Thank you.
It is very clear, Mr. Waterman, that you certainly have your hands full, and between what you've done in the past 2 years and what you plan and what you show us, doing a great job. Thank
And
you
again,
very
that doesn't
much.
take all the day-to-day. Those are just our
Yeah.
basic items.
Yeah, and the computers still get fixed, so thank you. All right. Any other questions on the report? Thank you. So next we have the student representative report. So, Mr. Bento, do you want to have the floor for a bit?
So the first item I have on here is the cell phone usage during advisory. After our discussion with Dr. Morse and Mr. Anderson last Thursday, the student union would like to continue advocating for the reinstatement of cell phone usage during advisory, which is the 15-minute period between first period and second period of the school day. And we believe this would be a valuable time to communicate with family members, receive updates for events on the day, and would be fair given that the opportunity is presented to us at lunch. And after listening to our concerns, Dr. Moore said she will discuss the issue further with the ILT advisory. And for the second item, enhancing cafeteria Wi-Fi, that's something that we covered last at the district tech meeting with Mr. Waterman. And we got that resolved, so I'd just like to thank Mr. Waterman and his team for excellent work again. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. So, we'll leave that to Dr. Morse to take a look at and get back to you, and we'll see how that progresses in that conversation. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So next we have citizens' comments. Get the list. Thank you. So I would ask, when you come to the microphone, please state your name and address for the record, and we ask if you could please limit your comments to 3 minutes. First on the list is Paul Vento.
I'm just going to take this down.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, thank you.
Paul Vento, 40 Cassandra Lane. I know you're going, oh, another Vento is going to speak. No.
Must not
My-
a triplet.
My claim to fame is I'm the father, of Mike and Joe. So, thank you for having me up here to speak. It's a rarity in our household that I get to speak for 3 minutes uninterrupted. So I'm going to take full advantage of this.
Can't believe you just
18 years ago, this past weekend, Andrea and I, my wife, moved to North Kingstown on purpose. It wasn't a job that brought us here. It wasn't anything like that. It was just we looked at the map and we visited numerous towns and we chose this town. And one of the key reasons was because of the school system, the wonderful school system that you've developed over the years. And we've had the opportunity for Mike and Joe to progress through that system, starting at Stony Lane and Davisville, and then now here at North Kingstown High School. So we're very, very pleased with the job you've done, and I want to say thank you to all of you on the committee. It's a lot of work. I'm sure there's hundreds of decisions that you need to make, and sometimes not so easy to come to a consensus. What I'm going to ask you to do tonight is to do exactly that. I'll get to that in just a moment. One area where you mentioned earlier, Dr. Auger, is that we're first in a number of our athletic teams. We're also first in one other area, and we're also last in another area. You know where this is going?
I know where you're going.
We're first in the state to start school at the high school, the earliest start time in the whole state. We're also last in the state when it comes to the elementary start time. And so it's great to be first in a 10K road race, and sometimes last is really great if it's a spelling bee and you're the last one standing. But in our case, those two areas are probably an area that we can work on. I know it's difficult. I know the logistics are tough. We have neighbors, E.G., Barrington, and you're probably tired of hearing about them. They have different geography, different logistics. Yes, they were able to change their start times. Also, another place, the whole state of California just announced that they're going to start school at 11:30
8:30.
East Coast time. I know you guys would all love an 11:30 start time. Maybe not everyone up here. So we want to get home before midnight. What I'm asking is, can we address that in this year's budget? The science is there. It's not easy. The requirements, I'm sure, are both financial and logistics. And what I'm looking for you to do as a board is to come together and figure it out. That there's a way to find a mutually agreeable solution for all. And it's time to do it. It's late for Mike and Joe. They're going to be graduating next year. It would be great if you can have this happen so they can sleep in a little bit later. And then when they miss the bus, I have to drive them to school, so it would be much appreciated. There's a quote that I'll end with, and my 3 minutes is up. So the true measure of intelligence is the ability to change. Albert Einstein. He was a relatively smart guy, and so I think that there's a way to get this done, and I implore you to work together to make it happen. And if there's any way that I can come and mediate during your discussions, I would be happy to do so.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Next is Jennifer McCann.
Jennifer McCann, 62 Douglas Drive. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment to our school system. Like Mr. Vento, my husband and I moved here for the school system, for the town, for the community, and we love living here. But also like Mr. Vento, I'm here tonight to request that we make changing school start times a priority for the 2020-2021 school year. The evidence is clear that later start times at the high school best support students' academic, psychological, and physical growth. North Kingstown has a proud tradition of being a leader in education in our state, and it's time for us to lead in this initiative as well. Thank you very much.
Next is Jacob Gagnon.
Good evening. I'm a student at,
Could-
Jacob Gagnon,
Thanks.
72 Brookside Drive. I'm new here. Good evening. I'm a student at North Kingstown High School. I'm a junior, just in case you wanted to know. I'm also here to address the issue of school start times. I would like to speak on two things which I believe prove the urgency and necessity of changing school start times, and which I believe will be found irrefutable by the vast majority of North Kingstowners. One is the prioritization of issues which are frivolous in comparison to mental well-being, and the other is the alarming evidence of the degradation of mental health of students at North Kingstown High School and schools that start very early in the morning. It disappoints me that the town I grew up in prioritizes the location of its offices over real issues like the mental health of students, myself included. A multi-million-dollar bond for office location change is what takes precedence over any sort of spending for the mental well-being of the youth in my eyes, as I saw by the bond. If changing school start times is a money issue, why is the town willing to spend so much money on buildings and relocation when they could be spending it on humans and making sure that they're ready to learn and they're not being affected mentally by the really ugly early start times. In light of the numerous suicides that have also plagued our school in these past years, it is evident that the problem of mental health has not gone away and will not go away anytime soon. So I ask, why not now? Why not change it now if it's still going to be a problem in the years to come? The facts, which I'm sure you have been told over and over, all point to improved mental health at later start times. It's our job to prevent these tragedies and prevent children who grow up through the school system from becoming people capable of harming themselves and others. It's the responsibility of the school system to protect the children parents entrust with them, and this includes protecting them from harming themselves and others as a result of poor mental health. Previously, the only answer in refutation of the charge in school start times, of the change in school start times, has been based on financial circumstances, but the town has proven that they are willing to spend far more on far less pressing issues like the location of an office. I'm hoping that the school committee offers its gracious support in getting this town to focus back on its priorities. It seems now is the time to finally put the mental well-being of children before the price tag. Thank you.
Next is Alexander, is it Ong? Sorry.
I'm Alex Ong, 101 Teff Street. It can be hard to understand the perspective of a student, especially if you have graduated school for a number of years. So I'm going to try to give some anecdotal evidence to why I believe school start time should be delayed. For one, on the weekends I get up usually like 12 to 1 p.m. 1 is my record, I think. And then on school days I get up like as late as I can, but still much earlier, 6:45 a.m., which is I'm quickly looking at like it's a 5-hour difference, which is not healthy for the human body, especially on consecutive days, Sunday to Monday. I know a lot of students, myself included, who have to take melatonin to fall asleep on school nights. Like my friend Sam Williams, he takes melatonin pills. Personally, I prefer the liquid form. There's also a noticeable difference when I sleep well. I can comprehend material more easily in my classes. I have better social communication, which is really vital to high school. And it's also more enjoyable, which is just nice. Another thing that I feel is maybe overlooked is that wake-up time is sometimes more important than the hours of sleep you get. An example of this is that one time, maybe 3 weeks ago, just had a really rough Sunday night, and it took me like far too many hours to fall asleep. I ended up falling asleep at like 4 a.m., slept till 9 because I really needed that. But even waking up at 9 with those 5 hours of sleep felt better, felt more awake, was like more social, easier to understand things than waking up at 6:40 with 9 hours of sleep, which is really curious because I always thought it was about hours of sleep, but it seems sometimes it's more important to wake up when it's light outside, wake up when an hour that coincides more with your natural biology. That's all the anecdotes I have, but I hope this can give you a better perspective on what it's like for students to wake up at early hours.
Next is Jonah Adler, sorry. Did I say it wrong?
Steinway Adler.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jonah Steinway Adler, 1151 Vineyard Road. So I'm a junior at the high school, and I just feel like pushing back the school start time needs to be a priority of the school department. Every day, students are waking up super early, and which leads to poor retention in class, unwillingness to learn, and declining mental health. And just with the more time in the morning to be prepared, families and students can lead healthier and happier lives, I believe. That's all I got.
Thank you. Pamela Balin-Ong?
Hi, Pam Ong. I'm at 101 Teft. I'm Alex's mother. The anecdotes. I'm here today to express support for changing the school start times, and I believe that now is the time to make that happen. There's a national movement called Start School Later, which you probably have heard about. Communities across the country are moving towards later start times for high school. I was at the presentation that former Assistant Superintendent Michelle Humbard made a few years ago, I think it was, on changing the start times across the district. And I know it's something that the administration and school committee has been supportive over time. But I think that now is probably an opportune time because there are now town council members who are very supportive of it and are willing to fund it and have asked for it to be a priority. There's a group of students, parents, and town council members that have met, starting with, I think, last year, to talk about changing the school start times. I'm fully supportive of plans to build a new middle school, and I think that that can be moving along one track, but I feel like we should have another track with changing the school start times, starting now. We should strike while the iron is hot with the town council that we have in place now. And it's like, as my son said, I drive him to school every day because the bus leaves at 6:13 in the morning, which is just too early for him to be up and functioning, and he kind of sleeps to the last minute, and we only live 5 minutes away from the high school, so I can drive him to school. And I just see the students arriving, and they all look jet lagged and, walking into school. And I've heard from my son and his friends that they often are either very sleepy in the first class or they're okay for the first class because the adrenaline kind of gets them going, and then a little bit later in the day, it kind of hits them and they are very sleepy. So I'm supportive of the school start time, and I feel like now is a good time to do it just because we have the support of some town council members to do that. So thank you for all you do. Thanks.
Thank you. And the next person on the list and taking 2 bites of the apple is Joe Vento. In his individual capacity.
Mm-hmm. Hi, everybody. Joe Vento, 40 Cassandra Lane. The North Kingstown School Department prides itself on providing continual inspiration for students so they can achieve individual excellence. It also prides itself on challenging students to problem solve and achieve new heights even through adversity. School start times is a major problem in this district. Everybody at this table understands the clear-cut science outlining the health problems that coincide with an early wake-up requirement for teens. Everybody here understands the economic hardships elementary school parents face when many have to leave for work before putting their child on the bus. You all acknowledge these effects. The problem is nothing has been done to fix them. Other districts, including Barrington and EG, some of the top schools in Rhode Island other than North Kingstown, have already made the move. Their school departments recognize the problems that come with an early high school start time and a late elementary school one. This brings me back to my point about challenges, problem solving, and achieving new heights. Nobody in this room believes that adjusting the start times is going to be an easy process. And like my father, I also have an inspirational quote. This one's from a famous president by the name of John F. Kennedy, who once said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone." Once you have made the decision to make the move, the NKSD will have the support of members of the community, the support of the student union at the high school, and now recently, the support of the town council, who, may I remind you, urged the school department to include the funds for the change in your budget for this year, which was, they requested that last April. I urge you all to make the right decision that many of our neighbors have made and prioritize changing school start times and including the necessary funds for the change in the FY20-2021 budget. Thank you.
Now, is there anyone who didn't sign up but would like to speak? Yeah, you can come to the microphone. Just again, please state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Mike Michaud, 80 Boone Street in North Kingstown, and I keep this short. I was fortunate to talk with Dr. Auger a few weeks ago, who was willing to bring me up to speed on this issue, and have met Joe and been so impressed by the work that he's been doing for the past couple of years, and I think everyone else has already made compelling arguments. So I'd just like to advocate as well for the inclusion of funding in the 2020-2021 budget for increased busing and for a change in start times. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Pardon the quality of my voice. Lance Swenson, I live at 122 Cole Drive. Like many of the parents here, I moved to North Kingstown recently. We've lived here for about 18 months. My daughter Ellie is a 6th grader at DMS. She was a 5th grader at Stony Lane last year. And like many of the parents here, the primary reason why we moved to North Kingstown is the quality of the schools. So much better from where we were prior to that. One thing we did not even consider when looking where we were going to move for our next placement was start times. It just had not occurred to us that this would be a factor in the way that it is for North Kingstown. Everyone here in the audience has made wonderful arguments for why we should prioritize changing the start times. I'm not going to reiterate what they are. I do reiterate my support for prioritizing a change in start times. I do recognize that there are financial costs, logistic issues as well. Another thing I think we should think about in cost is opportunity costs. I think it's very important to recognize that if we're asking our high school students to arrive at school at 7:15 in the morning at a time where we know, based on lots of science and lots of evidence, that students are not able to benefit from instruction at that time, each and every day we're losing an hour of an opportunity for them to learn something new, to advance their education. And I think that's another kind of cost we should factor into consideration when we're thinking about the costs of either keeping the start times where they're at now or possibly delaying them for an hour. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate
it. Anyone else? Okay, then that'll conclude our citizens' comments. Thank you all for speaking tonight. And so, next item on our agenda would be the consent agenda. Does anyone have anything they would like to exempt from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. I have a motion from Ms. Hildebrand. I have a second. I have a second from Mr. Mather. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item in your packet is the school committee approval of the fund balance allocations. Any quick discussion on that, Mrs. King?
No, actually, except that I should have dated my spreadsheet 12/10/19 instead of 12/19/19.
Okay. No problem.
I think that it's important that we, Mr. Jones has suggested this before, but that we really try to identify our fund balance in our reserve buckets and try to make that the savings account for those areas. And the big one that we have is some reserve for, future replacement of the athletic field and those, athletic upgrades complex. And as we get funds in, I think it's important that we are putting those into the buckets and holding them that way as much as we can. We know that there are going to be times we might have to release that, but I think it's important that at least we're showing that we're putting things in those kind of buckets.
And the idea being, as we go into budget season, that the town council would ask for an allocation for our capital improvement fund, as we have, in the past, and we've talked about over and over again. A lot of times we're asked, well, what are we using it for? We've always told them that. The idea behind this is to be even more specific and show not only, what we're doing, but what the plan is going forward, what we're, looking to get in how much time, so that we have a real, very specific plan to show going forward to support what we're looking for. So, I have a motion to approve item E.
So moved.
Motion from
Second.
Mr. Jones, second from Ms. Hildebrand. Any further discussion?
I would just like to add 2 points. Been on this committee 7 years. This is one item from almost my first time on here, so I'm glad this committee is actually moving forward in the administration. And some points that I think for the public, you know, there's been a lot of talk because of events over the last year, right, about not waiting till things fall apart to fix them. And I think, you know, people who actually look at this and see some things, you know, we're actually allocating, even though it's, you know, not set in stone, but I think it reflects priorities, as some people have talked about, you know, putting money towards reimagining the high school library, putting money towards the auditorium, putting money towards our CTE stuff. You know, I think that's important instead of waiting, you know, years and years and going, we need hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then that's when we really run into the issue of where's the money, you know, is to start building these along with our building use and other sources, so, you know, X amount of years from now, we're not dependent on a bond or something to make these things happen. So I applaud the administration and us, if we vote for it, that we're starting to really make these more visible buckets of money and where our priorities are.
And similarly, I'd just add, when we were going, I won't say door to door per se, but meeting to meeting, talking about the athletic complex bond, people would ask us, well, you know, if we build this great new turf field, what's going to happen when it needs to be replaced? And we made the commitment that, you know, we would be setting aside our capital funding to make sure that, you know, we put aside a little each year to replace that when it needs to be replaced. But the flip side of it is that we don't have the ability to raise our own funds. The funds come from the town council, and our ability to do that depends upon the town council's funding our capital account. So we've gone through and listed each item, and take a look at it in our packet if you want to look at what our priorities are and what our plans are for those funds going forward. So we do have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion,
Can I just ask
go
a
ahead.
clarifying question then?
Yes.
So this is the plan with the goals that accompany what we've already talked about with our capital fund allocation, that all of that will go to the town council at some point.
Well, yeah, and actually, it's already gone, so this
Okay.
right here is really just a very small piece of our capital plan. So the capital plan that we've already sent to the town council and the asset management committee
Yep.
really encompasses what we think we'll be using our fund balance for, but also just that projected future piece, which is 70 times more than this amount of money here. But this is all part of that whole plan. But that plan has already been submitted for FY21. It just has not been commented on by Asset Management Committee yet. It hasn't been presented to the town council yet. And the town council does not decide if they're going to allocate funding to our capital account until May,
Okay.
April or
So
May.
this document is just a piece of that.
It's a very small piece of it. It's really just how the school committee is committing to using what fund balance we can squeak out, and really showing that that's really primarily being used to fund capital that we don't get capital funding from the town for. It's really what it is. That's what we have used our fund balance on for as long as I've been here, and you know, sometime before that as well.
And just to, you know, point out what I think we all know, but the fund balance, you know, these capital funds can only come from two places. They can come from an allocation from the town council, or in the past few years, we've been fortunate enough through good budgeting, through the planets aligned in various different ways, ending a year in a surplus. If there are surplus funds left over in the school budget, those funds are then put towards capital projects to fill in the gap from the funding that we haven't been getting. So, but that is not a reliable method of funding. You're relying on everything working out to have money left over. You're not budgeting for capital. You're just getting lucky. So we're hoping, you know, that we can continue to work with the town council on getting that reliable source of funding, so that we can supplement, you know, the good years. We have money even in the bad years, and we have enough money, because right now we don't have enough money to do everything we need to do.
But is it ever going to be a reliable source? Because unless they change the structure, we still have to ask every year. Right?
Well, I gotta tell you, for 7 years,
That's
we've
not
all,
bad.
everybody at this table has been asking for the town leaders to come up with that reliable source, and there has been no discussion of it. Asset management has tried in the last couple of years as best they can, but the issue in the town of North Kingstown, and it's not just the school department, I mean, everybody is very clear about the town buildings as well, is that there is an enormous backlog of capital upgrade items. It's huge dollars. It's more than 70 million just for us, and I'm sure that if the town knew how much their backlog was, it's at least that as well. But there's nobody working on a backlog, let alone what happens going forward. So maybe one year we're lucky and they throw us $500,000, and then last year they didn't because, well, you had a bond, so you don't need any more money, except we've got this $70 million gap, and it just gets bigger and bigger. So that is a great question, and it has not yet been addressed. It hasn't even been discussed in the 7 years that I've been here. It's very disappointing. It's very discouraging. It's going to take some really strong people to take a look at numbers and figure out how we start chipping away at a backlog and saving for the future. But as the town continues to let that slide, the number just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's very, very discouraging because our buildings, I probably have, of our 9 school buildings, there are 3 that need a roof because the warranty is over and we're patching them together. That's not a couple $100,000. So this small amount of money that we're allocating right here, like Mr. Blasbog said, well, we hope we have a surplus going forward, but I certainly can't plan for that. You know, that's not something that we can even have a contingency fund on our own. So it's really, it is, again, another big item in the town that needs to be figured out. You know, and I know there are a lot of them, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it hasn't even, it's just been pushed aside for a lot of years.
Well, I also think it reflects, you know, someone mentioned opportunity costs. So part of this point being, you know, we're allocating 10% towards fixing, you know, upgrading, refreshing the auditorium. If we don't get our capital request, well, we know we're going to stay stuck at 10%, at least for another year. But also, we've moved now to charging more user fees and more, right, for building use. People can also see, well, we're paying some of these fees, but I can see, you know, some of this is going into the auditorium fund. So, right, we can start, you know, seeing where your user fees are going. And I also think, you know, in some case, you know, I don't know, maybe someone's out there and wants to donate a couple $100,000 to get the library named after them or something. But, you know, sometimes to get those things, you have to show a commitment that you've put some money in, right? And I think, again, this is more demonstrating we've put in 1/10 towards replacing the turf field already. If we don't get a matching thing from the town council, well, we know we're behind, you know, 9 years from now in replacing that. So I think it's a good planning document too, to sort of understand if we're on track, not on track, those things.
Any other comments? So we have a motion and a second, so I'd ask all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, we have school approval of transfer of the school bus title, which is in your packet. If I could have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Mr. Jones. Any discussion?
I'm just curious what
This is
this
being-
means.
We have always done this, but not needed your approval before.
Okay.
DMV is now saying that you, so this is a bus that is a contractor's bus.
Right.
Okay. The bus is paid for, we hold the title until it's paid for, and that first 7-year contract of theirs is gone. DMV said that they will no longer approve a transfer for $1, which is what we used to do, because it's technically that contractor's bus.
And always
So-
was.
Exactly, always was. We just hold the title with the
And
way our
that's for
system works.
insurance
Big buses,
purposes and all that.
big buses.
Yeah, yeah.
So now it's technically a sale, and we can't approve a sale of seeming property.
Right.
So that's why it's come before you for $100. It's stupid, but it's DMV.
And so, just to be clear.
Sorry.
That's the new logo, by the way.
Sorry.
It's stupid, and it's DMV.
It is. It really is. It's
Could be
it's
their
nonsense.
slogan.
But it's not like they're getting the $100. I mean, it is kind of silly, but
So we're getting the $100.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to be crystal
Those
clear,
funds.
this is not like some super sweetheart
Yeah.
deal where this
No,
contractor is
it's
getting
all-
a bus for
right.
$100. It was always that contractor.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
it's the big buses again. And I just didn't feel comfortable that this didn't come before you because I'm not, if we're calling it school department property, kind of in a way, I'm not allowed to
You don't
dispose of or
sign the
sell
title
it.
without asking us
That's
first.
correct.
So that's what.
It
this
is silly.
I'm just curious.
So we had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So unfinished business, 2018-2019 school budget. Can you speak to the financial?
Right, so, I'm not looking for an approval or anything tonight, but what you have is a really rough draft of the FY19 financial statements for the school department. So we have new auditors this year, and what the school department financial statements are gonna look like for FY19 is this is the first year that we've asked for them to be specific to the school department. So they're really kind of gonna be two sets. There's gonna be a set of FY19 statements that very specific to the school department, only about the school department, and then by law, we're required to also wrap up into the much bigger, couple 100-page financial statements. What you have is really just the brief draft of what the 200-page draft is gonna look like. The auditors are struggling to get the audit completed on the town side, so they are gonna be working on the financials for us that are just specific to us, and next year, it'll be a lot quicker, but they're building them from scratch because we're brand new to them. The audit, the school department has pretty much been done with the audit for a while now, but they've been working hard with the town to get the town up to speed, so that's why they're not as pretty as what we'd like them to be and not as specific to us, but we will get there.
So we're not approving these?
Not
we're just
No,
looking
it's
at
like an
them.
FYI. What I'm thinking is that maybe for January 14th, and I'm not sure if that might be a little bit too early, but in an upcoming school committee meeting, the auditor will come and present to you about the school department financials. So we don't have to have a joint meeting or anything. They specifically in the RFP, they know that this new group knows they need to come to you, to a school committee meeting, so we'll work together to get that scheduled.
Next is,
Sorry? No, just, this is more, some of the small restricted accounts, are those under us or under the town? And my point is,
Which, do you mean like the trust ones?
like Scholarship America was $69.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I mean,
I
the
don't
whole
think that's
point
us.
of a process with the town to clean up these things that probably cost more to maintain the paperwork,
Well,
than there's funds there.
What I will say about that, for both the town and the school side, so I do know that the town had started to undergo cleaning up some of those accounts. And we also have a few trust accounts that are so old. We have a couple that go back to the early 1900s, and I'm not kidding you. The unfortunate thing about that is that we're gonna need some idea of what we're allowed to do with some of those accounts
you've gotta
because
find the
they're so
original-
old. And you've gotta find out if now the original intent can be let go and those funds can be cleared off the books. And I don't really know where the town stands, but I know they started to try to do that. I think they had a roadblock on something. We have 3 or 4 that I have asked legal counsel to look into, but it's just, it's not that big a deal because it's only a little bit of money. So that's why they linger on there, because it's not as simple as just saying, oh, this is 100 years old, we're gonna eliminate it. We can't do that. And I have trust documents, I have old trust documents and whatnot, and I believe a lot of the town ones, it's the same thing. They're old, they're not entirely sure that they can just shut them down. They need to do some investigation.
Yeah, I mean, some I get, CUNY Vento, those that get refreshed
Every
every
year,
year.
exactly,
I'm just
exactly.
wondering on some of these that show up, and it looks like, healthy schools, $1,800. Like, is that sitting in a town account somewhere, or?
Probably not. Any of the stuff that's related to the school we are handling.
Okay.
But that one specifically, I don't know, maybe that
Right.
is when we keep getting refreshed or what. But any of the school ones, we control those.
Right, I'm thinking, it was 2 parts. One of the mechanics of where the
Yeah.
cash actually is.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Okay, and then our heartache, your all heartache about, maintaining
It
these
is.
notional, because I assume we're
It really
pooling.
is.
Are we pooling the money, or are we keeping a separate account for a lot of these?
No, there's not, I don't believe there's a separate
Right,
account.
so
Yeah,
we're pooled accounts,
Yeah.
it's kind of the issue of,
yeah.
you know, at some
Well,
point,
and, you
if
know,
there's a
some of them-
reason to spend it, then spend it.
Right, and I believe there's at least one that's in some sort of separate account, and it's like a penny a year, you know, in interest. That it really is a hassle, and our controller has asked me a lot to try to get them cleaned up, but again, it's not really exactly something that legal counsel can spend a lot of time on right now. But I will continue to ask to get them cleaned up because they are a nuisance. But again, I you know, some of them I have old document, but it's like 2 sentences on what the intent was. You know, we're really gonna need a legal opinion on what they think. You know, we don't want somebody to come out of the woodwork and say, what in the world are you doing with this money that we gave, you know, my ancestors gave? And I can see that happening. But we'll continue to work on that.
So next was 2019-20 school budget, CIP.
Can I just, well, we're not tangentially stepping, too bad some people left, because I think, I just want to make one comment related to that. So if you notice, there was articles about Christmas trees, and Christmas trees are more expensive because 10 years ago, when there was the recession, some people stopped growing Christmas trees. I just think we have to caution when we sort of say, I know there's financial, there's logistics issues. If the town council today plunked $1 million into our 1920 budget, we're not fixing the start times right now. So part of, I think, the discussion is waiting. If we got $1 million in May, I'm not sure we could fix the start times.
We absolutely can't. That's
Right.
not a not sure. We can't.
And so
Not
I
for
think,
September.
I think those who advocate for this need to understand that, because part of your advocacy is not, will you give us the money in next year's budget? Is it, will you commit to doing that in an early enough time so the administration can work out the logistics, or at least know if the logistics are able to be worked out? Right? I mean, there's a meeting next week with the town council. You want to repeat your advocacy, right? Because we can't wait till April 30th to get the final budget number for this issue, right? I just want to make that point because school bus drivers don't, you know, not quite like Christmas trees, but they're not textbooks either. You just go to Amazon and order, especially the way our transportation system is set up. And then again, I always remind people, don't forget, a fraction of our buses go to bus kids to private schools, right? Which is something you can advocate with your GA members to talk about, but getting some of those buses back would certainly chip away at start times.
Anything else?
Thank you.
No problem. Next is CIP existing bond and future bond. We have second read of the school committee GCF.2 hiring policy. If I could have a motion to approve item D1. Motion from Ms. Hildebrand. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Jones. Any discussion? It's a second read, so this will be our final vote on it. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Oh, less agenda items.
A lot less agenda items. They're all in consent. Item D2, if I could have a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Second for Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. There's a disposal report in your packet. Any questions on that? If not, we have reached the end of our agenda. I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Jones.
Second.
Second, Ms. Hildebrand. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We return. Thank you. Thanks for
We've
coming.
actually had that before, haven't we?
There were times when motions
Yes.
to adjourn were contentious and involved